1 month later, the classroom was too bright. The words in Athena's textbook blurred together, her head pounding. She felt weak, dizzy, and nauseous. Mia nudged her arm. "Athena, are you okay? You look pale." Al frowned. "Yeah, you look like you're about to pass out." Athena swallowed the rising sickness in her throat. "I don't feel good." Ali reached into his bag and pulled out a butter bun from the cafeteria. "Here, eat something. Maybe you just need food." The moment Athena smelled the butter, her stomach twisted painfully. A wave of nausea hit her so fast, she barely had time to react. She shoved the bun away, clamped a hand over her mouth, and bolted out of the classroom. "Athena!" Mia called, quickly following. Athena stumbled into the bathroom, barely making it to the toilet before she threw up. Her entire body trembled as she gripped the sides of the sink, cold sweat dripping down her back. Mia rushed in after her, her face full of panic. "Athena! Oh my God! Are you sick? Do you have food poisoning?" Athena wiped her mouth, feeling shaky. I don't know, Mia." Mia studied her carefully, then her eyes suddenly widened. "Wait, don't tell me." Athena frowned. "What?" Mia leaned closer and whispered, "Are you pregnant?" The words sent a chill down Athena's spine. "What? That's not possible." Mia gave her a knowing look. "Athena, have you been feeling tired? Nauseous? Any weird cravings?" Athena's heart pounded. No, she couldn't be. Then a memory flashed in her mind. That first night, Xander, breathless against her skin. He didn't want to use protection, and she had agreed. Her stomach twisted. Oh my God. Mia waved a hand in front of her face. "Athena, are you okay? You look like you're gonna faint." Athena's breath hitched. I need to go home." Mia's face was full of concern. "I'll tell the teacher you're sick, okay? Do you need me to come with you?" Athena shook her head. "No, I'll be fine." Her hands trembled as she pulled out her phone and quickly texted Xander. "I'm going to my mum's house. Don't pick me up today." No reply. He was probably in his office, too busy scolding his employees to notice. She booked a cab and headed straight to her childhood home, the large mansion where she had lived before her marriage. When she arrived, she felt small standing at the front door. "I haven't been here since the dinner with them last month." Taking a deep breath, she stepped inside. "Mom?" Her voice was unsteady. Her mother was in the kitchen, helping the maid chop vegetables. She turned in surprise. "Athena, what are you doing here?" Athena swallowed hard. "Mom, I need to talk to you." Her mother's eyes filled with concern. "What's wrong?" Athena hesitated, then whispered, "I think I might be pregnant." Silence. Then, instead of panicking, her mother simply sighed and reached into a cabinet. "I bought these just in case." She handed Athena a pregnancy test. Athena's breath hitched. A pregnancy test. Her fingers trembled as she picked it up. You were expecting this?" Her mother's lips pressed into a thin line. "You're married, Athena. It was only a matter of time." Athena swallowed hard, her mouth suddenly dry. She grabbed the box and disappeared into the bathroom. Athena's heart pounded as she locked herself in the bathroom. Minutes felt like hours as she waited for the result. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3. Her breath caught in her throat as 2 pink lines appeared. Her stomach dropped. She was pregnant. Her hands trembled as she opened the door. Her mother stood outside, waiting. "Athena?" she asked softly. Athena met her mother's gaze, her voice barely above a whisper. "Mom, what am I gonna do? I'm still in school." Her mother pulled her into a warm embrace. "Shh, don't panic. It's okay. You're in your last year. No one will even notice until next year. We'll figure this out." Athena bit her lip, her mind in chaos. How am I going to tell Xander? And more importantly, what if he doesn't want this baby? Xander might react. The thought made her stomach twist again, but this time, it wasn't from nausea. Xander had changed. He wasn't the same cold, reckless man she had married months ago. He had promised to be a real husband to her. He had held her close at night, whispered against her skin, made her feel wanted in ways she never thought possible. But a baby. She wasn't sure if he was ready for that kind of responsibility. Would he be happy, or would he see this as a mistake? Athena pressed a hand to her flat stomach, her heart racing. This was real. The two pink lines didn't lie. A life was growing inside her, a part of her and Xander. Her mother's voice was soft. "Sweetheart, does Xander know?" Athena shook her head, swallowing the lump in her throat. "No, not yet." Her mother squeezed her hand gently. "Then you need to tell him soon. No matter what happens, you won't be alone in this." But as Athena sat there, her mind swirled with 1,000 fears. What if he panicked? What if he thought she had trapped him? What if the love they had built wasn't strong enough for this? And worst of all, what if he told her he didn't want the baby? Her grip tightened on the pregnancy test as she took a shaky breath. She had to tell him, but she wasn't sure if she was ready for the answer. Athena stood by the window, staring at the darkening sky. The conversation with her mother had left her feeling lighter, but only a little. The weight of the tiny plastic test in her pocket was still there, a constant reminder that her life had just changed forever. She exhaled slowly and reached for her phone. Xander hadn't called or texted back since she told him she was at her mum's house. Maybe he was busy. Maybe he needed space. Maybe... Her phone vibrated in her hand, and her heart nearly jumped out of her chest. Xander. She hesitated for half a second before answering. "You still there?" His voice was deep, steady, but there was something else beneath it, something she couldn't quite place. "Yeah," she murmured. "Good." A pause. "I'm coming to pick you up." She blinked. "You don't have to. I was just about to call Athena." His voice left no room for argument. "Wait for me." She swallowed, gripping the phone tighter. "Okay." The call ended. Athena exhaled and slipped her phone into her pocket. Her mother was still in the kitchen, giving her space, but the silence in the house felt suffocating. She needed air. Without thinking, she walked through the hallway and pushed open the door to the garage. The scent of gasoline and metal filled her lungs, instantly familiar. Her eyes swept over the expensive cars her parents never drove before, finally landing on something covered with a thick sheet in the corner. Her chest tightened. Slowly, she stepped forward, fingers trembling as she reached for the dusty cover and pulled it away. The sight of it stole her breath. Her motorcycle, her baby. It had been months since she last saw it, since she last touched it. She crouched down beside it, running her fingers over the sleek black paint, the silver details. Her own reflection stared back at her in the metal, eyes wide, lips parted. "I missed you, baby," she whispered. A bitter smile tugged at her lips. This bike had been her escape, her freedom. Before everything, before the marriage, before him, this was what made her feel alive. She had almost forgotten what that felt like. Her fingers trailed over the handlebars, memories flashing in her mind. The late-night rides, the wind in her hair, the reckless speed that made her feel invincible. She had always been running from expectations, from rules, from the life her parents wanted for her. But now she wasn't running anymore. Her hand drifted lower, resting against her stomach. A new kind of warmth spread through her chest. She wasn't alone anymore. The sound of a car engine outside snapped her back to reality. The sound of a car pulling into the driveway made Athena tense. She stood in the garage, her fingers still resting lightly on her motorcycle as she exhaled deeply. The weight of the pregnancy test in her pocket felt heavier than before. How am I going to tell him? The front door opened and heavy footsteps followed. Athena! She turned, her eyes meeting Xander's. He was still in his office suit, jet black, crisp, tailored to perfection. The top buttons of his dress shirt were undone, and his tie was slightly loosened, as if he had been in a rush. His hair was messy, as though he had run his fingers through it 1,000 times. For the first time, she realized, he must have come straight from work. No detours, no stops, just her. Her mother stepped into the hallway behind her, eyes flickering between them. Then, with a knowing look, she smiled. Xander, it's been a while. Xander turned his attention to her mother and nodded politely. Good evening, Mrs. Cruz. Athena's mother wiped her hands on a towel and waved dismissively. Enough with the formalities. You're family now. Family. Athena's stomach tightened at the word. Her mother gave her a quick glance before turning back to Xander. Take care of her. Xander's jaw tightened slightly, but he nodded again, his gaze flickering to Athena. Always. Athena swallowed. Goodbye, Mom. She hugged her mother briefly before stepping towards Xander. Her mother's voice followed them as they stepped outside. Drive safe, you two. Xander opened the passenger door for her, and she slid in. The moment he got into the driver's seat and started the car, silence settled between them. The city lights blurred past, and Athena stared out the window, her thoughts spinning. She didn't say much, and he noticed. What's wrong, wifey? His deep voice broke through the quiet, laced with something gentle. Athena forced a small smile. Nothing. Xander narrowed his eyes but didn't press further. Instead, he reached toward the back seat, grabbing something wrapped in paper. Then, to her utter shock, he handed her a bouquet of roses. Her eyes widened. Flowers? Xander smirked, keeping his eyes on the road. Yeah, for my wifey. She stared at the deep red petals, the scent filling the car. You know, he continued, tapping his fingers on the steering wheel. I've never given flowers to anyone before. Athena almost chuckled. Are you for real? Then again, instead of flowers, you gave your body instead. He didn't say anything for a moment, but his smirk grew. Then quieter, he murmured, I want to change. Her breath hitched. He turned his head slightly, eyes soft. For you. She felt her heart skip a beat. Before she could respond, they pulled into the driveway of their home. Athena stepped inside first, still holding the flowers. The house was warm, familiar, but suddenly it felt different. Xander set his keys on the counter and loosened his tie completely, rolling up his sleeves as he turned to her. All right, what's going on? She froze. He leaned against the counter, watching her. You've been quiet. I know something's on your mind. Athena clenched her fingers around the bouquet. Now or never. She took a shaky breath. Xander, I have something to tell you. He straightened, his hazel eyes sharp with focus. Go on. She slowly reached into her pocket, her fingers brushing against the small plastic test. Her stomach churned. Just say it. I'm pregnant. Silence. Xander didn't move, didn't blink. He just stared at her. Athena felt her heart pounding. I found out today. I wasn't feeling well, so I went to my mom's, and she gave me a test, and... You're pregnant. His voice was unreadable. She swallowed. Yes. Xander ran a hand through his hair, exhaling. His expression was impossible to read. Shock, disbelief, something else she couldn't place. Seconds passed. Then suddenly, he stepped forward. Athena braced herself for the worst, but instead of anger or frustration, Xander cupped her face, his thumb brushing over her cheek. Her lips parted. Xander, I'm going to be a dad, he whispered, as if saying it out loud would make it real. She nodded slowly. A slow smile spread across his face. And then, he pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly she almost lost her breath. Athena buried her face in his chest, feeling the rapid beat of his heart against hers. Xander let out a soft, breathless chuckle. "You're carrying my baby." She pulled back slightly to look at him. "You're not mad?" He shook his head, his eyes shining with something she never thought she'd see in him. Pure, raw happiness. "Athena, this—" He exhaled, his hand pressing gently against her stomach. "This is the best thing you could have ever given me." Her eyes burned. "Really?" He nodded, leaning down to press a soft kiss against her forehead. "Really." She let out a small laugh, overwhelmed with relief. Then Xander smirked. "Guess I need to buy more roses from now on." Athena rolled her eyes, shoving him lightly. "Idiot!" He chuckled, pulling her back into his arms. "My idiot," he murmured, and for the first time that day, Athena finally let herself breathe. She wasn't alone in this. She had him. They had each other. And now they had something even more precious, their future. Xander leaned against the balcony railing of their bedroom, a cigarette between his fingers. The city lights stretched endlessly before him, but his thoughts were somewhere else. Athena was pregnant. His wife, pregnant, with his baby. He took a slow drag, exhaling smoke into the cool night air. He had never thought much about kids before. Hell, he had never even considered it. Every woman he had been with before, protection, always, no exceptions. But Athena, she was the only woman he had never worn protection with, the only one he had ever trusted enough to be reckless with, and now she was carrying his child. Xander sighed, rubbing a hand down his face. Shit, he wasn't scared. No, that wasn't the right word. He was just uneasy. Not because he didn't want this baby, because fuck, the moment he saw her standing there with that nervous look in her eyes, he knew he wanted this. But was he ready? His whole life, he had been wild, untamed, the kind of man who did whatever the hell he wanted without thinking about consequences. Drink, smoke, women, no strings, no responsibilities. And yet, in just a few months, Athena had tamed him without even trying. How the hell did she do that? He chuckled darkly, shaking his head. A miracle. Xander tossed the cigarette into the ashtray and pulled out his phone. He scrolled through his contacts, women he had entertained before Athena. Models, actresses, rich heiresses who had always been a call away. Without hesitation, he started deleting them. One by one. They meant nothing. They were ghosts of the man he used to be. Then, he pulled up his company email and typed a quick message to HR. "Fire my secretary. Get me a new one. A male one." He hit send. He didn't want to see her secretary anymore. Athena was the only woman in his life now, and he was making damn sure nothing and no one could ever change that. He turned back toward the bedroom. Athena was asleep, curled up in their bed, one hand resting on her stomach. Even in the dim light, she looked so soft, so peaceful. Xander walked over, sitting on the edge of the bed. He reached out, hesitating for a moment, before resting his palm against her stomach. "My baby is in there." The thought sent something unfamiliar through him. Responsibility, protectiveness, love. I have to be ready. I have to change. Not just for Athena, not just for their child, but for himself. He had spent years living like a selfish bastard. It was time to be something else. A real husband. A real father. Xander exhaled, leaning down to press a soft kiss against her stomach before whispering, "I'm gonna treat you both better." I swear, for the first time in his life, he wasn't just making promises. He was going to keep them. The next morning, Xander woke up before Athena. It was unusual. She was usually up first, already making coffee, or stealing the blanket while stretching like a lazy cat. She's now sleeping in same bed with him, but today she was still curled up in bed, sleeping soundly. Maybe it was the pregnancy making her more tired. His gaze softened. She needs rest. Careful not to wake her, he slipped out of bed and went to the kitchen. Toast, scrambled eggs, coffee. Wait, no. Wasn't caffeine bad for pregnant women? He frowned, pulling out his phone and searching it up. Limit to 200 milligrams a day. Whatever the fuck that means. Sighing, he settled for making her a fresh fruit smoothie instead. By the time Athena woke up, rubbing her sleepy eyes, Xander was standing by the bed with a tray of food. She blinked in surprise. You made breakfast? Xander smirked. I attempted to. It's not poisoned if that's what you're thinking. She let out a small laugh, sitting up and taking a bite of the toast. Not bad, but I think I still prefer my own cooking. Dutch, I'm trying to be a good husband here. Wifey. Athena smiled, placing a hand over his. You already are. Xander's chest tightened. Fuck, he was wrapped around her finger. Later, that day, Xander had to go to the office, but before he left, he made sure Athena had everything she needed. Text me if you feel sick, call me if you need anything, and don't do anything reckless. Athena rolled her eyes. I'm pregnant, not dying. Xander narrowed his eyes. That doesn't mean you get to act like you're invincible. She stuck her tongue out playfully. Fine, Dad, he snorted. Not Dad, not yet, anyway. Her expression softened, her hand unconsciously touching her stomach. Yeah, not yet. Xander leaned down, pressing a kiss to her forehead. I'll be home early. And for once he meant it. He wasn't the same man he used to be. He was a husband, and soon he would be a father. It had been 6 months. 6 months since Xander made the decision to change. 6 months since Athena told him she was pregnant. Xander never thought he'd be the kind of man who would settle down, who would devote himself entirely to one woman, one family. But Athena changed everything. At first, the transformation wasn't easy. His past had a way of creeping back. Women from his past, flings, one-night stands, old mistakes, didn't take the hint right away. Xander, let's have dinner, just for old time's sake. Come on, don't tell me you've actually turned into a loyal husband. That's not you. You can have both, you know, your little wife at home and me whenever you want. He blocked every number, deleted every contact. The last woman who called again received a response she didn't expect. You think I'm still that man? He had said, his voice cold and bored. You think I'd throw away the woman I love for a moment of cheap entertainment? She had laughed, though it sounded forced. Love? Since when do you believe in that? Xander had leaned back in his chair, exhaling slowly. Since the moment I realized she was the only one who ever fucking mattered. After that, the calls stopped. They finally got the message. Xander belonged to Athena. And he wasn't the kind of man who strayed. Not anymore. The past 6 months had been a whirlwind. Athena was changing too. Her body, her routine, her life. Her baby bump had started to show, just enough that her clothes no longer fit comfortably. Xander noticed everything. How she got tired more easily. How she leaned on him more when they walked. How she pressed her hand to her belly when she thought no one was looking, smiling to herself. She was beautiful, even more than before. She graduated the previous month. Xander sat in the front row, watching as she crossed the stage in her gown, her stomach barely visible beneath the fabric. She was glowing. Their parents were incredibly proud of her. So was Xander. After graduation, Athena focused entirely on her health and the baby. Mia and Arlo visited constantly, fussing over her like overprotective siblings. Mia always brought strange herbal drinks, insisting they were good for pregnancy. Ale kept her laughing, even when she was too tired to move from the couch. Xander didn't mind them coming over. He just wanted Athena to be happy. But more than anything, he wanted her to never need anything. So he did what he did best. He spoiled her. Every week, he brought her flowers, roses, tulips, lilies, whatever he thought she'd love. He bought her expensive gifts, jewelry, designer dresses, even if she couldn't wear most of them anymore, shoes, perfumes, anything that might make her smile. And for the baby, he went overboard. Xander hired the best interior designers to transform one of the penthouse rooms into a nursery. Every detail was carefully selected. Soft cream walls with delicate golden patterns, a handcrafted crib with the softest blankets, a rocking chair for Athena, a closet overflowing with baby clothes, even though they didn't yet know the baby's gender. When Athena first saw it, she laughed. "Xander, we don't even need all of this yet." He simply smirked, pulling her into his arms. "My kid deserves the best." She rolled her eyes but smiled. "You're ridiculous." "Yeah," he murmured, kissing the top of her head. "Ridiculously in love with you." She melted at that, her fingers resting on his chest. "You know, I never expected you to be like this." "Like what?" he asked. Her gaze softened. "The perfect husband." He didn't say anything right away, because he knew he hadn't always been. But now, he was trying. He was becoming the man Athena deserved. That night, as they lay in bed, Xander rested his hand on her stomach. A tiny kick pressed against his palm. He stiffened. "Was that?" Athena giggled, placing her hand over his. "Yeah, the baby's been kicking all day." He was speechless. Feeling it move, knowing their baby was growing inside her, did something to him. It made everything real. He lowered his head, pressing a soft kiss to her belly. Then he whispered the only thing that mattered. "I'll take care of both of you, no matter what." Athena's fingers ran through his hair. "I know," and for the first time in his life, Xander felt truly at peace. The sun had barely risen when Xander stepped out of the shower, running a towel through his damp hair. The scent of food drifted through the penthouse, warm and inviting, his brows furrowed. Athena? Cooking? With a sigh, he tossed the towel onto the bed and slipped into a white t-shirt and grey sweatpants before heading toward the kitchen. The sight that greeted him made him pause. There she was, standing in front of the stove, her back to him, humming softly as she flipped pancakes. She was wearing one of his shirts, the fabric swallowing her frame, and her long, messy hair cascaded down her back. His gaze instinctively dropped to her belly. Rounder now, visible even through the oversized shirt. She looked perfect, but he wasn't about to let his pregnant wife cook when she should be resting. "Athena!" he called out, his voice still thick with sleep. She turned slightly, raising a brow. "Morning." "What are you doing?" he drawled, stepping closer. She rolled her eyes, flipping another pancake. "What does it look like? I'm cooking." Xander let out a dramatic sigh. "I know what you're doing, but why are you doing it?" "Because I want to," she said, her tone playful but firm. "I still can cook, you know. I'm not some fragile princess." He smirked. "No, but you are my princess." Before she could protest, he swooped in, effortlessly lifting her off her feet. "Xander!" she squeaked, her arms flying around his neck. "Put me down." "Nope." He carried her to the living room and gently placed her onto the sofa. "You're on mandatory rest," Athena huffed. "I'm pregnant, not helpless." He crouched down in front of her, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. "I know, wifey, but today's special." She narrowed her eyes. "Why?" "Because we have a checkup," he reminded her, pressing a kiss to her knee before standing up. Now sit there like a good girl while I make breakfast." Athena folded her arms. "I don't need to be spoiled all the time, you know." She tried to fight back a smile, but failed. Seeing him like this, so serious, so gentle, it still caught her off guard. She never thought Xander Ashford, the reckless CEO who used to treat women like passing distractions, would ever be like this. But here he was, doting on her, like she was the most precious thing in the world. Xander gave her a lazy smirk as he walked back to the kitchen. "Too bad. Spoiling you is my favorite thing to do." She sighed, but smiled to herself, watching as he expertly moved around the kitchen. He knew how to cook, something that had surprised her at first. Minutes later, the scent of fresh pancakes filled the air. Xander returned with a plate, setting it on the coffee table. He sat beside her, watching as she took a bite. Her eyes widened. "Okay, this is actually good." He smirked. "What, you thought I'm only good in bed?" She flushed. "Shut up." Chuckling, he reached for his phone and checked the time. "We should get ready soon. The appointment's in an hour." A nervous flutter filled Athena's stomach. Their baby. They were going to see their baby again. As if sensing her emotions, Xander wrapped an arm around her shoulders, pulling her close. "Hey, you okay?" She nodded, leaning into his warmth. "Yeah, just excited." His hand instinctively rested on her belly, his thumb rubbing small circles. "We're gonna be parents," he murmured, almost to himself. Athena smiled softly, covering his hand with hers. "Yeah, we are." And for the first time that morning, Xander didn't have a teasing remark, because in that moment, nothing else mattered. Later that day, they arrived at the hospital. Xander held her hand the entire time, his thumb rubbing slow circles on her palm. He looked calm, but Athena could feel the slight tension in his grip. "You're nervous," she teased as they sat in the waiting room. Xander scoffed. "No, I'm not." She raised an eyebrow. "Then why are you holding my hand like I'm about to disappear?" He didn't answer, just brought her hand to his lips and kissed it. When the doctor called them in, Xander stayed right beside her, his eyes glued to the screen as the ultrasound began. And then, there it was, the tiny heartbeat, the little form moving inside her. Athena felt tears sting her eyes. She turned to Xander, expecting him to be smiling, but instead he looked frozen, his jaw clenched, his eyes wide, his Adam's apple bobbing as he swallowed hard. "Xander," she whispered. He didn't say anything for a long moment. Then, in a hushed, almost broken voice, he murmured, "That's our baby?" Athena's heart melted. She squeezed his hand. "Yeah, that's our baby." He exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair before letting out a soft chuckle. "Holy shit." The doctor smiled. "Would you like to hear the heartbeat?" Xander nodded quickly, his grip on Athena's hand tightening. And then they heard it. The soft, steady rhythm filled the room, and Athena saw something she never thought she'd see. Xander Ashford, the cold, ruthless CEO, the man who once said he never wanted kids, had tears in his eyes. He looked at Athena, his expression raw with emotions he couldn't put into words. "I love you," he whispered. "I love you so much." Athena felt her throat tighten. She leaned into him, pressing a kiss to his cheek. "I love you too." And at that moment, nothing else in the world mattered. Just them. Just their little family. Xander couldn't stop staring at the ultrasound photo. They were back home now, Athena resting on the couch with a blanket over her lap, sipping the tea he made her. He sat beside her, one arm wrapped around her shoulders, while in his other hand, he held the tiny black and white image of their baby. His baby, his child with Athena. The reality of it all was finally sinking in. This wasn't just some passing phase, some temporary change in his life. This was forever. Athena shifted, resting her head against his chest. You've been staring at that picture for an hour, Xander, she murmured, amused. He smirked, brushing his fingers over her arm. I still can't believe that little thing in there is ours. She laughed softly. You looked like you were going to pass out when you heard the heartbeat. Xander exhaled through his nose, shaking his head. I swear, I thought my heart was gonna stop. But hearing it, seeing it. He looked down at her, his gaze softening. I've never felt something like that before. Athena placed her hand over his, her fingers tracing lazy circles on his skin. I was scared at first, you know? When I saw those 2 lines, I didn't know how you'd react. Xander's jaw tightened. He hated that she ever had to doubt him, that she thought, even for a second, that he wouldn't want this. Xander let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. He kissed her, slow, deep, pouring everything he felt into it. When they pulled away, Athena playfully poked his chest. Since you're so dedicated to proving yourself, you can start by giving me a foot massage. He chuckled, shaking his head. You're really going to use this pregnancy to make me your personal servant, aren't you? She grinned. Obviously. Xander laughed, shaking his head as he lifted her legs onto his lap and started massaging her feet. Anything for my queen. The next morning, Athena woke up to the smell of coffee and something sweet. She sat up groggily, rubbing her eyes. The other side of the bed was empty, but she could hear faint noises coming from the kitchen. Curious, she got up and padded toward the source of the smell. And then she saw it. Xander Ashford, in the kitchen, baking. He was shirtless, wearing only his sweatpants, his hair slightly messy as he focused on mixing something in a bowl. Athena blinked. Am I still asleep, or are you actually making muffins? Xander glanced up, smirking. Good morning, sleepyhead. She crossed her arms. Seriously, muffins? He shrugged, pouring the batter into the tray. I read that pregnant women crave sweet stuff sometimes. Thought I'd get ahead of the game. Athena felt warmth bloom in her chest. He really was trying. She walked up behind him, wrapping her arms around his waist and pressing her cheek against his back. You're unbelievable, you know that? Xander placed his hand over hers, squeezing gently. Only for you, wifey. As she stood there, wrapped in his warmth, Athena realized something. She had never felt more loved in her entire life. They sat down at the kitchen counter as Xander poured coffee for himself and warm milk for her. He placed a fresh muffin in front of her, watching her expectantly. Try it, he said, a little too serious for someone offering a simple muffin. Athena took a bite and widened her eyes. This is actually really good. Xander smirked, leaning back in his chair. Of course it is. I don't do things halfway, you know that. She rolled her eyes, but smiled. Yeah, you're perfect. I get it. Then, as she reached for another muffin, she paused. I miss my motorcycle. Xander froze mid-sip, his expression instantly darkening. He placed his coffee down and looked at her like she'd just said something insane. You what? Athena pouted, crossing her arms. I miss my baby. It's been a year since I last rode it. Xander's jaw clenched. You can't ride it. Athena scoffed. Why not? He shot her a look, gesturing toward her baby bump. Because I won't let you with your big belly. No way in hell. Athena huffed. I know I can't ride it now, but I still miss it. Xander leaned in, eyes locked onto hers. When the baby's born and you've recovered, I'll buy you a brand new one. She raised an eyebrow. I love my bike. I don't need a new one. Xander exhaled, rubbing the back of his neck. Then I'll take it to get a full tune-up, change the parts, whatever it needs, but you aren't getting on it right now. Period. Athena sighed dramatically, resting her chin on her hand. Fine, boss. Xander smirked. Damn right, I'm the boss. She threw a napkin at him, making him laugh. Then he checked his watch. I have a meeting this evening, so let's eat these muffins first, okay? Athena smiled, watching him. He was changing, not just in the big ways, but in the small ones too, and she loved him even more for it. Xander sat in his office, tapping his pen against the desk as he stared at the documents in front of him. He had been working non-stop for the past few months, tying up loose ends at work so he could spend more time at home. Ever since Athena got pregnant, his priorities had shifted completely. His business was still important, but she and their baby came first. A small smile tugged at his eyes' lips as he glanced at his phone, seeing the wallpaper, a picture of Athena laughing in their penthouse, one hand resting on her growing belly. My wife, my baby. He had never thought he'd get to this point. The thought of settling down, of starting a family, had once felt impossible. But now he wanted it, needed it. Just as he was about to send a quick message to Athena, his phone rang. He frowned, seeing an unfamiliar number, but answered anyway. Xander Ashford. Is this Athena's husband? His stomach dropped. The voice on the other end was urgent, almost breathless. Yes, who's this? This is from St. Mary's Hospital. Your wife is in labor. The pen in his hand clattered to the desk. Everything around him blurred, his heartbeat roaring in his ears. What? His voice was sharp, disbelief coating every word. The baby is coming early, sir. You need to get here immediately. Xander shot up from his chair, already grabbing his suit jacket. Fuck. That's not. Her due date is next week. Babies don't always follow a schedule, Mr. Ashford, the nurse said, calm but firm. You need to hurry. Xander didn't need to be told twice. He stormed out of his office, barking orders at his secretary. Cancel everything. I need my driver at the front now. But sir, now! The drive to the hospital felt like an eternity. Xander's hands gripped the armrests, his jaw clenched so tightly it ached. His mind was spinning. She's early. What if something goes wrong? What if she's in pain? He wasn't ready. He thought he had more time. As soon as the car skidded to a stop, he threw the door open and sprinted inside. Athena Ashford, where is she? He demanded at the front desk. The nurse barely had time to react. Room 305, sir. Xander didn't wait for more instructions. He was already running. He fumbled for his phone, quickly calling Athena's parents. She's in labor, he said the moment they picked up. Her mother gasped. Oh my God, we're on our way. He ended the call and dialed his own parents. Get to the hospital, now. He burst through the delivery room doors. And there she was. Athena lay on the hospital bed, her face damp with sweat, her expression twisted in pain. Her hands clutched the sheets, her breathing uneven. Athena! Her head turned slightly, eyes fluttering open. The moment she saw him, something in her relaxed. You're here. Xander rushed to her side, grabbing her hand. Of course I'm here. He kissed her forehead, voice shaking. I'm not going anywhere, baby, I swear. A contraction hit, and she squeezed his hand so tightly he nearly winced. It hurts. I know, wifey, I know. He stroked her hair, his heart breaking at the sight of her in pain. You're almost there, okay? You're the strongest woman I know. The doctor glanced at them. She's fully dilated. It's time to push. Athena let out a shaky breath, her free hand clutching her belly. Xander, I'm scared. Xander cupped her face, forcing her to look at him. You can do this. I'm right here. She nodded, trusting him. All right, Athena, the doctor said. On the next contraction, push as hard as you can. She gritted her teeth, bracing herself. Xander positioned himself beside her, holding her hand. You got this, wifey. Then she pushed. Xander had faced ruthless businessmen, dangerous deals, and high-stakes negotiations, but none of it compared to this. Watching Athena struggle, seeing her in pain, knowing there was nothing he could do to take it away, it wrecked him. But she was a fighter, his fighter. Minutes felt like hours as she pushed through each contraction. Xander whispered words of encouragement, wiped the sweat from her forehead, kissed her knuckles when she screamed. Then, a baby's cry filled the room. Xander's breath caught in his throat. The doctor held up a tiny, wriggling newborn, covered in warmth and life. "It's a girl!" Xander's world tilted. A girl, his daughter. The nurses quickly cleaned the baby and wrapped her in a soft pink blanket before placing her in Athena's arms. Tears slipped down Athena's cheeks as she looked at their child. "She's so perfect." Xander leaned over, staring in awe at the tiny face. His chest tightened, his throat closing up. He had never seen anything more beautiful in his life. Then, as if she could sense him, their daughter opened her eyes, deep hazel, just like his. Xander let out a shaky breath, a tear slipping down his own cheek, and then he saw it, the soft golden strands of hair peeking out from under the blanket, blonde, just like him. His heart clenched. "Hey there, princess," he whispered, touching her tiny fingers. "I'm your dad." The baby let out a soft noise, her little hand wrapping around his finger. And in that moment, Xander Ashford, ruthless CEO, former playboy, feared businessman, fell completely, utterly, hopelessly in love. Outside, their families arrived. Athena's parents rushed in, crying with joy as they saw their granddaughter. Xander's parents followed, his mother gasping at the sight of her son cradling the newborn. "You have a daughter, Xander," she whispered, pride shining in her eyes. He looked up, smiling softly. "Yeah, I do." Athena leaned her head against his shoulder, exhausted but glowing with happiness. "We have a daughter." Xander kissed her temple, holding his family in his arms. Later that night, when everyone left and Athena had fallen asleep, Xander sat in the chair beside her, cradling his daughter in his arms. She was so small, so delicate. His whole life he had been reckless, selfish, irresponsible. But looking at the baby in his arms, his baby, he knew there was no going back. This little girl, she was his whole world now. Xander smiled, gently brushing his thumb against her tiny cheek. "You're going to have the best life, princess, I swear." And for the first time in his life, he knew this was everything he ever needed. 2 weeks had passed since Athena gave birth, and life in the penthouse had completely changed. The once quiet and elegant space was now filled with soft baby blankets, tiny clothes, and the scent of baby lotion. Xander had barely left her side, making sure she was comfortable while he handled everything else. He had already made arrangements with his secretary to oversee the company for a while longer. Right now, his priority was Athena and their daughter. Work could wait. Athena sat on the bed, her back against the headboard while their baby slept soundly beside her. She gently ran her fingers over her daughter's soft blonde hair, still amazed that this tiny human had been growing inside her for 9 months. She was lost in thought when the sudden sound of the doorbell made her flinch. Xander, who had just stepped out of the shower, grabbed a t-shirt and threw it on before heading toward the door. When he opened it, Mia and Ale were standing there with bags. A lot of bags. "Surprise!" Mia grinned, pushing past Xander like she owned the place. Ale followed behind, shaking his head. "I told you to chill, but no, you wanted to bring half the baby store with you." Mia rolled her eyes. "Whatever, this is my niece. She deserves everything." Xander sighed, running a hand through his hair. "You guys are too early. Now I have to cook for you too." Al smirked. "Damn right." Xander just shook his head, closing the door behind them before heading to the kitchen. Mia and Al made their way to Athena's room and immediately squealed when they saw her. "How's our bestie?" Mia plopped down on the bed beside her, placing a bag in Athena's lap. "We brought gifts for our little princess and gifts for you, obviously." Al sat on the edge of the bed, eyeing the baby with a soft smile. "Damn, she's actually real. I still can't believe you have a baby now." Athena laughed, adjusting her pillow. "Honestly, sometimes I don't believe it either." Mia reached over and carefully touched the baby's tiny hand. "She's so small," she whispered. "And so cute. What's her name?" Athena smiled. "Zanetta Ashford." Al blinked. "Wait, did you just combine your names?" Athena smirked. "Yep." Mia gasped dramatically. "That is so iconic." Al shook his head. "Nah, that's a power move. You really named your baby after both of you." Athena chuckled. "Well, Xander didn't complain." Al snorted. "Yeah, 'cause you're the only person on Earth who can boss him around." Mia grinned. "And he likes it." Athena just rolled her eyes playfully, but a warmth spread through her chest. She had never imagined Xander would turn into this kind of man, so devoted, so loving. As if on cue, Xander walked into the room with a tray of food. "All right, eat before you start gossiping too much." Al raised an eyebrow. "Wow, you really are a house husband now." Xander smirked. "I take care of what's mine." Mia and Al exchanged looks before bursting into laughter. Athena shook her head with a smile, reaching for the food. "Thanks, husband." Xander leaned down and kissed her forehead before sitting beside her, his gaze dropping to their daughter. Life had changed completely, but for the first time, everything felt right. Xander sat beside Athena on the bed, his eyes fixed on their tiny daughter. She was sleeping so peacefully, her little chest rising and falling with each soft breath. He had never thought he'd be the kind of man to just sit and watch a baby sleep. But here he was, completely in love with this little girl, his daughter. Mia nudged Athena playfully. "Damn, bestie, your man is obsessed with his little princess." Ale smirked. I swear I've never seen him this quiet before. She already has him wrapped around her tiny finger." Xander shot them both a look. "You two talk too much." Athena chuckled, taking a bite of the breakfast he had made for her. It was simple, scrambled eggs, toast, and fruit, but it tasted amazing. Maybe because she knew he had made it just for her. Mia leaned her head on Athena's shoulder. "I'm still trying to wrap my head around the fact that you're a mum now. Like, you, Athena Cruz, the girl who used to run around on her motorcycle without a care in the world." Al grinned. "And now she has a little princess of her own. Life is crazy, huh?" Athena rolled her eyes. "You guys are acting like I moved to another planet." Mia laughed. "Nah, but it's nice seeing you like this. You're happy, and that's all that matters." Athena was about to argue, but then she looked at Xander, her husband, the man who had once been so distant, now sitting beside her with a gentle expression, his fingers softly touching their daughter's tiny hand. Maybe Mia was right. Maybe things had changed, but not in a bad way. She had love now, a real home, a family. Al clapped his hands together. "All right, enough emotions. Let's get to the important part. When are we throwing a party for little Zanetta? I'm thinking a huge celebration. Balloons, cake, music." Xander cut him off. "She's 2 weeks old, dumbass." Al shrugged. "Okay, fine. Next month then." Mia giggled. "I swear this baby is gonna be so spoiled." Athena smiled, watching her little girl sleep. "She's loved. That's all that matters." And for the first time in her life, she knew this was exactly where she was meant to be. 6.5 years ago, if someone had told Athena that she would be married, with a child, and truly happy, she would have laughed in their face. Marriage had always seemed like a trap, Something meant to strip away her freedom. Love? That had felt like an illusion, until Xander. As she stood on the balcony of their penthouse, the golden hues of sunset melting into the horizon, she realized just how much her life had changed. The city below stretched endlessly, but up here, in their own little world, there was nothing but peace. A warm breeze ruffled the silk of her nightgown, and she closed her eyes, inhaling deeply. Laughter echoed from inside. She turned her head slightly, peering into the living room where Xander and their 4-year-old daughter, Zanetta, were engaged in a playful chase. Zanetta, with her dark curls bouncing wildly, squealed as she darted behind the couch. "Daddy, you can't catch me!" she teased, giggling uncontrollably. Xander, arms crossed, smirked. "Oh yeah? We'll see about that, little troublemaker." Athena leaned against the doorway, watching the scene unfold with an amused smile. Xander, her once cold and ruthless husband, was now completely at the mercy of a 4-year-old. A man who once commanded boardrooms with an iron fist was now running around their penthouse, pretending to be a monster just to hear their daughter laugh. Xander lunged, catching Zanetta and lifting her high into the air. She shrieked with joy, her tiny hands grabbing his face as she planted a wet kiss on his cheek. "Gotcha," he declared. Zanetta pouted dramatically. "No fair. You're too fast." Xander chuckled, setting her down before glancing at Athena. "Takes after her mother." Athena rolled her eyes. "Oh, so now I'm fast?" he smirked. "In certain situations, absolutely." She felt her cheeks heat, but chose to ignore his teasing. Instead, she crossed her arms and addressed their daughter. "All right, sweetheart. If you keep playing, you'll never go to bed." Zanetta clung to Xander's leg, giving him her best puppy dog eyes. "Daddy, can you read me a bedtime story?" Xander exhaled dramatically. I don't know. I had a long day chasing a little troublemaker around." Zanetta gasped, shaking his leg. "Please," he laughed, scooping her up. "All right, princess, let's pick a book." Athena watched as he carried their daughter down the hall, her heart swelling with love. She had never pictured herself as a mother, had never imagined this kind of life, but now she couldn't picture anything else. She made her way to their bedroom, slipping beneath the soft covers. The familiar scent of Xander's cologne lingered in the sheets, wrapping around her like a second skin. She sighed, letting the warmth of the moment sink in. Not long after, Xander walked in, his movements quiet but purposeful. He slid into bed beside her, wrapping an arm around her waist, pulling her against him so that her back was pressed to his chest. His warmth, his presence, it was everything she had ever needed. 6 years, he murmured against her hair, his fingers tracing lazy circles on her hip. Athena smiled, her eyes fluttering closed. 6 years, a daughter, and a husband who actually listens to me sometimes. Not bad. Xander let out a soft chuckle. I'd say very bad, considering you still boss me around. She turned in his arms, raising a brow. Oh, and what would you do without my bossing? His eyes darkened slightly as he brushed his thumb over her cheek. Honestly, I'd be lost. Athena's breath caught, her teasing smile faltering. Even after all this time, Xander had a way of saying things that made her heart stumble. I love you, he whispered, leaning down to press his lips against her forehead. A slow smile spread across her lips. I love you too. Xander tilted her chin up, capturing her lips in a slow, lingering kiss. It wasn't rushed or desperate, just soft, deep, filled with everything they had built together. She melted into him, wrapping her arms around his neck as he deepened the kiss. When they pulled away, he rested his forehead against hers, his voice a mere breath. Forever? Athena smiled, tracing a finger along his jaw. Forever, always. And as they lay there, tangled together in love and warmth, Athena knew one thing for certain. This wasn't just their happy ending. This was only the beginning. The end. Thank you all for following Athena and Xander on this journey. Blessings to you all. This is Mr. Hope. Comment below if you liked this story.